been working out at our larger site for the day, working on some nursery stuff, planted some pawpaw seeds in a prepped bed there, put in some starts of sea kale over here, set up a couple more air prune boxes and planted them to bitternut hickory, and all while doing that, enjoying this extremely rich, beautiful aroma from this character right here. And I realized it would be a nice opportunity in the flowering moment. We'll do another update in the fruiting moment, but in the flower time of this wonderful shrub friend in front of me. You can see the flowers are just phenomenally stacked, one on top of the other, thousands and thousands per bush. These are nitrogen fixing shrubs that are not from this place originally. They got here in the not so distant past and have proven themselves to be extremely capable and competent in growing in all sorts of conditions. The flowers smell like extremely rich honey, really rich, deep, dark honey. It's very, very pleasant to be around them when they're in peak flower, and they host such a wide range of both native and non-native pollinator beings that I can actually hear the shrubs humming this time of year. There are wild varieties out there that make relatively small red fruits that are on the tart side, but extremely high quality medicinal fruits loaded to the brim with lycopene, a great anti-cancer compound, easy to harvest by hand. There's no thorns on these plants, and you can basically strip them off. What I also like to do is manage the plants, since they are a bit expansive. Now, when the fruit is loaded on a branch like this, I'll cut it low when the fruit is super ripe and we'll have fruit on the cob. These shrubs get around 10 to 15 feet tall, but are extremely amenable to being cut very, very hard. If need be, if they're starting to expand in ways that are undesirable, they could be cut flush to the ground. Doing so a few times would actually kill them, releasing an immense amount of nitrogen into the soil. But I like to just let them grow for a little while and then harvest by pruning when needed. These shrubs are an early pioneer species, meaning that they can occupy disturbed areas extremely well. This is part of how they have gotten a bad rap in certain circles, in that they are able to very competently reclaim damaged annual crop fields. They can grow along the side of highways where it is very disturbed and very depleted soils. They can grow even on strip mine sites. But when they're grown in really rich, moist soil in full sun, they tend to relax, make massive, massive crops, and almost stay put. At least that's been our experience with 18 years of working with them. We can plant this shrub in conjunction with other characters in order to amplify and support the other characters. So for example, here is an apricot. This is a cultivar seedling apricot grown with the shrub just to the south, providing tons and tons of nectar flow, immense amount of nitrogen fixation, which will help the apricot get nice and big. And then as needed, we can cut this shrub back, especially when it's in fruit, and feed it as a chop and drop, a nitrogen rich chop and drop around the bottom of it, or make biochar out of the stems, and slowly but surely reduce and remove this shrub to release that tree. In fact, that design pathway has been utilized extensively in our landscape. So for example, here is the beautiful shrub I've been speaking of. This is a cultivar varietal that makes very large, very sweet yellow golden fruit in November in our area. And this year we've added a seedling apple into the mix just to the north of the shrub, and we'll have the apple enjoy the nitrogen fixation being offered, the shelter from wind. I didn't mention that yet, but this is also a shrub that does not seem to draw deer in. In fact, deer are repulsed by it for some reason. So it's acting as a nitrogen fixing, fertilizing, deer deflecting nurse shrub for the apple tree. Very easily can be cut and fed to the apple as needed. Same picture here, apple with a spiky cane crop that can be woven through the branches of the apple, and our friendly shrub providing the huge nectar flow for bees and fruit and medicine for us later on in the fall. There's extreme diversity in these plants when grown from seed. These are shrubs collected from seed that my friend down in the Piedmonts in Virginia, up in the mountains of Virginia, found some parent shrubs that had particularly large, deep red fruit that cropped very late, and we saved seed and grew them out in our landscape here. And again, this shrub is acting as a nurse for some pink currants and grafted apples that are in and amongst. You can't see them, but that's the point, neither can the deer. Been pleasantly surprised over the years to see just how strong the wood is in these shrubs as well. Oh, there's a nice butterfly. Butterflies really love the nectar of this shrub too. In the past, what I've done is planted winter squash to the south of these. Delicata and acorn squash worked beautifully for us, and they grew nicely with all the excess nitrogen the shrub was offering, and then climbed the woody parts of the shrub in order to use it as a trellis. And then the fruits hung from the shrub in the fall, and we harvested both the fruit and the winter squash at the same time. It worked out beautifully. Cut away all the vines from the squash and everybody was back to normal. As far as I understand, this is a shrub that can grow in much, much hotter climates than we have, also much colder. We have very particularly slow draining, sluggish, silty soils that are relatively poor. They were abused as conventional orchard in the past, and the shrub does extremely well in that, but they'll grow in well-drained soil as well. The one thing that seems to kill this is shade. Under the strong shade of white ash. Now, they were dying. They were actually, I was cutting them to the ground and they were passing away. As the ash canopy starts to die, the shrubs are having a little bit of a rebound. But it's interesting to see that if your paradigm is to establish a food forest with predominantly canopied species trees in the long run, chestnuts and hickory and English walnut and apples and pears and persimmon, then the shrub will facilitate their growth, protect them from deer, offer nitrogen fixation, offer fruit, and then slowly senesce in the understory. They're just not competitive as an understory plant. I think if your interest is to have a perpetually open, annually rotating full sun context, so if you're a market farmer and that kind of thing, you may not want a plant that is like what I just described. But if you're trying to establish a longer term, resilient, declining embodied energy, increasing total yield over time, it's a great ally to have a shrub form plant that can fix nitrogen, can offer delicious fruit and medicine, can be cut as needed, and will slowly but surely disappear once the canopy closes around them. So many other awesome characters to look at and think about. Of course, this is just one of many, but it's a peak moment. It really caught my nose today. It's a particular season where the air just fills with sweet, dark, rich smell of honey, and it reminds me to appreciate that one particular character at this time of the year. Thanks for watching.